Hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're really happy that you could join us. Let's kind of go into why we're all here today. On the next slide, we'll see our agenda. We're going to do some quick introductions so you can see who is actually speaking to you today. And then we have a very special treat for you. We're going to present to you a play in 2 acts. It's called The Software Engineers. But in this exciting play, we're going to be going over how to implement approval flows, how to control specific changes, how to include the relevant folks in your approval process, and then fitting the approval flows actually into your team's existing release and rollout processes. And then how to track the changes for compliance purposes. So this is an action-packed play, but I think you're going to enjoy it and learn more about approval flows from the play. And we'll wrap up with some takeaways, and then we'll open it up to answer your questions. So who is actually speaking to you today? Well, I am Leah Hansen. I'm from marketing, and I'm assisting Kevin Lee, our product manager today at Split. He will really be telling you the meat and potatoes of approval flows. And then I think most of you know Split, and that is why you're here. But for those who may not, we are a feature delivery platform. We help you manage with feature flags. You can monitor your releases and their performance. And then you can also do statistically significant experimentation as well with Split. So it's an action-packed delivery platform as well. And then to tell you all about approval flows, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Leah. So to start us off, I think it'll be helpful to ground ourselves in thinking a little bit about the history of the software development lifecycle and sort of some of the safeguards that folks have put in place to make sure that mistakes or accidents don't happen with your customers or with any of your code that you're building for your customers. And so if you think about some of the different controls there, you can see a few things thrown up here on a slide. Just to call out, when you're thinking about your source control and everything that folks do today in GitHub and the Bitbuckets of the world, folks have built out pretty robust systems for pull requests and making sure that you always have multiple sets of eyes on any change that's happening to your code. It's become pretty well accepted that really no merge happens into master without 2 sets of eyes really making sure that any code that a developer wants to merge in looks okay to at least one of their teammates. Now, as you think about the continuing down that pipeline of that software development lifecycle, you also see the advent and sort of adoption of CI/CD tools, right, in the last decade or so. And these tools have given developers the ability to automate all the different types of tests and actually the deployment of software into your different staging or production environments. All that really just to say that there's a lot that goes in there in terms of making sure that any code that gets merged not only gets human eyes on it, but gets run against a pretty exhaustive suite of tests. Now, one, that's powerful to make sure that you're not sort of introducing mistakes or bugs into your customers' experience with your product. But of course, folks have realized over time that as they think more about getting more agile and getting closer to being able to really release features on demand for the customers, that in order to do that, they need to separate that concept of code deploy from feature release. And so if you think about all those elements that go into your CI/CD platforms to deploy your code, you see the advent now of platforms like a Split, of course, giving engineers the power to release features without actually having to perform a code deploy, right? Sort of the exhaustive set of processes that go into having 2 sets of people look at any code change, run through all the different sets of integration end-to-end tests to make a change, no longer have to be followed, in that you have the ability to go into a Split and make a change directly from our UI to control the release of your features, right? This gives tons of our customers, one, the ability to lower the bar for production readiness and really adopt the usage of those CI/CD best practices to deploy as often as possible, because you can release features separately. Now, that's a really powerful and convenient set of features, But what we've seen there is that, and you'll sort of notice it immediately from this diagram, is that that release process, now that it's separate from the deploy, does have sort of this ability to have just really one human being now having full control over your customer experience. Whereas before you had built out these robust processes to make sure at least two sets of eyes were looking at any change. And so for us, as we thought about approval flows, we really saw a parallel there with all the source control platforms that have existed before us. And so for us, we've been thinking about it with that phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. You can control the release of your features separate from all your code deploy, and that's a powerful, convenient feature. But what we wanted to say is that even within Split, you should have an approvals process for any change getting made. So if you want to say, hey, right now my feature's on for nobody, and I want to turn it on maybe just for a few external beta customers, maybe I should just get that validated by a teammate first, get at least two sets of eyes to review all those changes before diving in. So hopefully that's helpful grounding in how we've been thinking about the approval flows sets of features, and making sure that we're building in some of those best practices around safety and making sure no mistakes happen with any of your releases with this most recent release.
Thanks, Kevin. And if you do have questions, feel free to just throw those into the chat and we'll get to them at the end of the play, so to speak. So now we open up. Now we're going to the software engineers, and this is a play in 2 acts. And we're going to set the scene here. It's a very busy tech company, and they roll out about 10 releases every week. The engineering team is 50 members. And we're going to open this scene on Leah, an engineer who's stressed out to get a new release out the door on time. And she needs another set of eyes before it can go live. This can be also for internal or external audiences, whatever. But in this particular case, she is stressed and she needs another set of eyes just to set that scene. So Kevin, if you could pull the curtain, please, on Act 1.
For sure. And I'll let Leah start sharing her screen.
Thank you. Love the curtain effect there.
Yes.
All right. So now
Split is only high production value.
So I am an engineer. I have been working on a Split to get a new landing page out. Before I can actually get it approved or to release it, I do need to have Kevin, my colleague, take a look and sign off on it. I've already submitted one that I'm waiting to hear back from him. So, you know, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to hopefully hear back from Kevin later on. But I'm going to go down here and just turn this on. So this is a new landing page that I'm creating. And I'm going to click Save Changes. So I want to just release this actually to internal audience first. Oops. Do some testing, and I'm going to just select Kevin to be the one to take a look, and I just click confirm. So then I can actually go back to my work and see that I have 2 outstanding submissions. So I really hope I'm going to have my lunch. I'm going to make sure you know, that I get fed. And then when I come back, hopefully Kevin will have already taken a look and approved both of these splits so I can get these out the door. So that is my part. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Amazing. Okay. So brief intermission here, and we'll come right back into Act 2. Act 2. It's important that we got the curtain to go again, of course. So now I'm coming back from an okay power lunch, but excited to get back to work. And I'm going to go ahead and check my email. And actually, I can quickly see here that a request just came in from Leah asking for an approval on that new landing page feature. So good thing that came directly into my email. I'm going to go ahead and hit review those changes in Split. And I can quickly now be brought and see, okay, Leah wants to release this feature internally to employees, and she submitted to me for approval. So I think overall, this looks pretty good to me. I think we've done the relevant testing to make sure that I think the feature is ready, at least for our internal audience to sort of give us some feedback. So I'll just go ahead and comment here saying looks good to me. I'm gonna go ahead and hit approve and confirm. And we are now all set. This feature has been fully turned on according to Leah's submission. Now, I think that got taken care of, but really quickly, I'm gonna go ahead and click into here to my work and double check to make sure I don't have anything else in the queue. Oh, and it looks like here that Leah actually submitted something to me earlier. So it's great here that I can see all of my pending outstanding approvals and submissions. I can click in here and I can see, okay, Leah actually earlier, almost, I think it was actually, looks like it was earlier this afternoon, asked me to take a look at the new homepage as well. Really cool, but I feel bad for letting that sit out there for a couple hours. So I'm just gonna quickly come here now and say this one looks good as well. And just let her know, sorry for the delay. In this case, I'm gonna hit approve and confirm. And so now we're good to go here as well for both of those. I'm really glad I was able to just get that taken care of within the my work page. Now, from here, I think I was just thinking through, this has been a really great process, and I was realizing that it looks like right now submitting for approval by default is actually optional. I think it'd be better if I actually made sure that across all of our teammates, we're always actually just getting a second set of eyes across all changes, especially in production. So actually, luckily I'm an admin of Split, and I'm gonna come here to our admin panel, and I'm gonna go ahead and edit some of the settings for our prod environment here. So I'm gonna hit edit. And I can obviously change the type of the environment, but right now I can see that the change permissions are set so that anyone can edit. What I'm actually going to go ahead and do is say I want to require approvals for changes. Make sure that every time someone wants to make a change again, we're just getting that second set of eyes. I think I can see here that there are a couple options. I can either let submitters choose their approver. So I guess that means in this case that I don't really have a specific set predefined team that needs to approve all my changes in production. But I think what I really want to do here is actually restrict who can approve. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I want to make sure that's only my administrators that have the capability to approve and really make any change in production go live to my customers. Now, one thing I do want to also make sure though is I'm going to go ahead and hit this checkbox here to allow kills without approval. So in an emergency, if something goes wrong with a given release, this way any individual teammate still has the ability to go ahead and hit kill on a feature and sort of move our customers back to a safe state if anything goes wrong during a release, and you don't have to wait for a second set of eyes in those cases. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit save here, and just to double check, I'll come back over here to that new home page and just see if I'll be now allowed, maybe if I want to, I know we just turned it on, but let me see if I'm now allowed to turn it off without asking for approval. Yeah, looks like now I have no ability to actually just go ahead and hit save. I do have to submit this change to the administrators by default now, which is really, really great. So on that note, I'm going to just really sign off of Split, and we'll say here the end on the software engineers play in 2 acts.
And then just as a side note to that, Kevin, too, I just want everyone to know that after Kevin had approved that, I also received an email that those approvals had been made. So just kind of a PS to the end.
Perfect. Well, I hope folks enjoyed that play. We definitely had a lot of fun putting together the slides and setting the scene there for everyone. But just to bring it back to sort of what we're really excited about for the approval flows, for the approval flows feature set, is that leveraging approval flows allows you to make sure you get that second set of eyes on any rollout plan, so that you're making sure that no mistakes ever really get released to your end customers, and no one's really has that power to sort of unilaterally affect your customer experience. You're really making sure that you're practicing best practices from a team perspective, and making sure everyone is sharing that responsibility of releasing features. And the biggest thing there is that what we're seeing from our customers is that you're going to really want to require those approvals in production at the very least. Now, maybe not in your lower environments and still let people iterate quickly on that side, but especially when you have the ability to really, with the click of a button, change your entire customer experience, it's best to just make sure that a second set of eyes has to be reviewing any change before it goes live for your customers. So I think at this point, that is really the majority of what we wanted to walk through today, and maybe we'd love to dive into your questions.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll get over to questions now. All right. The first question we have here is, Kevin, you can go for this too. Can I set a different set of approvers for different environments?
Yes, absolutely. So the settings that we saw there that we saw in the demo were for just setting it for the production environment. You can do that essentially for any of your environments across any of your workspaces. So for example, if you had for production, you want to limit to a smaller group of, maybe production or prod ops folks, you can do that. But then in staging, you could limit it to maybe just your software engineers and all of your teams there. So you can make different granular things per environment.
And someone wants to know, when will this feature be available?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a mix. So the pieces you saw there, in terms of approvals and submitting for approval and getting notifications and then seeing all of your aggregated approvals and in one page on my work is all generally available today. So that's already available. And then the environment settings where you can lock it down per environment is in its final stages of testing right now. So actually going to a bug bash on that right after this to keep diving in there. So of course, assuming, knock on wood, nothing goes poorly, we're targeting in the next week or two to get that out for our customers.
Great, that is super exciting. Another one, a couple of questions about this is, can I be a default approver but restrict it so that I'm not allowed to approve my own changes? Yeah,
so when you are setting approvers, you can select actually a group of folks. So we have the concept of groups or teams within Split. And so you could say, I want to make it so that only if you're a PM, you could say, I only want to make it so that PMs can approve. Now, if you were to submit something for approval to that PMs group, you will not be able to approve it by default within the application. Any change that you submit personally will never be approvable by you. So regardless of who you submit it to, you can never approve your own changes.
Great. And then another person wants to know, as soon as the request is approved, it goes live without further intervention from the requester. So in other words, is it going live right as soon as it's being approved?
Yeah, I think that was also basically the same question as is the change event. Yeah, so the answer is yes today. And as soon as the approver approves, it'll go live into that given environment. I think there are fair questions there probably on, can I approve it and let it go live at a later date in the future? That's definitely something we're looking at. That hasn't been prioritized to date. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do reach out to our team or your designated customer success rep, and we can definitely talk through that element of, do you want to be able to approve something and schedule it to go out later, or have someone else come and make that change go live later on? So definitely a great question, and definitely something we're keeping in mind as we see how folks start to leverage this functionality.
Great. And then another question, I think this may have been covered with the group as well, but can a Split have more than one approver?
Yes, so you can when you are adding or selecting approvers either at the admin's level to lock it down for environment, or if you are just selecting approvers yourself when submitting a change, you can submit to as many people as you want. So you could submit to 4 to 5 users or 4 to 5 different groups within Split, as long as those groups have been pre-created for you. So, and then I'll just continue down that path because I think that's sort of an extension. Bob, it looks like, put it in the chat there. If you select multiple approvers, do they all need to approve? And the answer there would be that only one of them needs to approve. So as soon as one person either approves or reject, that does sort of end the flow for that given approval flow. And I guess I'll just extend that because my guess is that folks are then are probably also wondering, can we build in that sort of concept of tiered approvals or requiring multiple approvals per submission? Again, that's something that we're still evaluating within the roadmap as well, and to a certain extent, we're seeing we're going to be evaluating how many approvers people are going to be selecting per submission as well, because this feature has been out for about a month or so, and I can say that on average right now, you're still seeing it at close to 1, and that most people are submitting each change to just one person. I think as we continue to watch and see if people are submitting to multiple people, that'll start to make a case for us of whether or not we should add in the concept of multiple tiers of approval or asking for at least multiple approvals within those changes as well.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? We will be sending out the recording. There's also a blog that Kevin has written that I'm going to be sharing with you as well. And we also were giving away a Purist water bottle. It's this pretty slick looking water bottle. And there's a few other registrants that came in at the last minute. So we're going to do a drawing, and then we'll let that person know who wins. So if you hear from me, you're the winner. And I want to thank everyone for joining, for registering, for sticking around. We're really excited about approval flows. We hope that it'll help you in your process and your workflow. And if there are no other questions right now, then we wish you a really good, really nice Thursday and a great weekend. And you can always go to our website or go to send us an email at hello@split.io. Once again, my name is Leah, and Kevin as well is here, Kevin Lee. So thank you, Kevin, and thanks to all of you for joining.
Thanks all. Bye now.